What if the quiet mess in your home is doing more damage than you think? Not just to your space, but to your health, your peace of mind, and your relationships. Most clutter doesn't start as junk. It starts with love, memories, and just in case. But after 60, those piles grow heavier, not just physically, but emotionally. They begin to whisper things like, "You're stuck," or "You're not ready to let go." And without even realizing it, your home becomes a museum of the past, while the present slips further away. These 7 decluttering rules are not about being harsh or perfect. They're about reclaiming the life you still have, and making sure the things around you reflect who you are today, not just who you were. Dolores Mae is 74 years old. She's a retired schoolteacher with soft hands, a sharp mind, and a quiet sense of humor that still lights up a room. Her home in Wichita, Kansas, is the same one she's lived in for over 40 years, a sturdy 3-bedroom house filled with memories, but also with a growing weight she never talks about. To anyone visiting, Dolores's home doesn't look cluttered. There are no boxes blocking the hallway, no newspapers stacked to the ceiling. But behind every closed door is a space she avoids. Closets packed with decades-old clothes. Cabinets filled with mismatched Tupperware lids. A guest room that slowly turned into a holding place for unopened gifts and boxes she promised she'd sort next week. She's not messy. She's not lazy. She's just quietly overwhelmed. And like so many people her age, Dolores believed she had more time. Time to figure it out. Time to go through it all. Time to decide what really matters. But as the years passed, her energy shrank while the objects multiplied. And little by little, the weight of every untouched shelf, every mystery drawer, began pressing on her spirit. She didn't say it out loud, but she started to feel stuck. One afternoon, while looking for a photo album to share with her grandson, Dolores opened a hallway closet, and a stack of outdated wrapping paper, tangled extension cords, and old birthday cards came tumbling out. She just stood there. Not frustrated. Not sad. Just still. And in that quiet moment, something shifted. She realized it wasn't just about stuff. It was about what she'd been postponing. Not just sorting, but facing. These 7 rules didn't just help Dolores clear her space, they helped her reclaim her sense of peace. Her freedom. Her ability to live forward, not backward. And for the first time in years, she stopped waiting for someday to arrive. Because she finally understood, clutter doesn't wait, and neither should you. Rule 1. If you can't name it, you don't need it. Dolores had a box in the hallway closet that simply read MISC, written in black marker, faded from sun and time. She couldn't remember when she packed it, maybe sometime after her husband passed, maybe before her knees started aching. It had been there for over a decade, quietly collecting dust behind a stack of old wrapping paper and a rusted folding chair. One rainy Tuesday, she finally decided to open it. Inside, she found things that had long outlived their purpose. 2 dead batteries wrapped in paper towels, a broken zipper from a coat she no longer owned, a single Christmas ornament hook, 1 orphaned sock, a tangle of yellowing twist ties, and a manual for a microwave she gave away in 2014. She sat down beside the box and stared at the items, not in anger or frustration, but in quiet disbelief. Not because of what she found, but because of how long she'd let it sit there without question. The box had become a symbol of hesitation, not memory. A place where things went when she didn't want to decide. And every time she walked past that closet door, something in her whispered, "You'll deal with it later." Here's the deeper truth for so many seniors: clutter doesn't always scream. Sometimes, it whispers behind labels like MISC, or to sort or keep for now. And those whispers grow louder with time, not because the objects become more valuable, but because the fear of letting go grows stronger. What if that charger belongs to something important? What if that key opens a drawer she forgot existed? What if? But here's the real question. If you can't name the item, its use, or why it matters, why are you still giving it space in your life? The older we get, the more precious our energy becomes. Every drawer you open and every shelf you dust takes just a bit more out of you. And when you're spending that effort on things you can't even name, you're not conserving your strength, you're slowly draining it. There's power in naming. Naming creates clarity, and clarity creates freedom. So the next time you open a drawer or pull down a mystery box, ask yourself, without touching it, can I name what's in here? Can I tell you why I'm keeping it? If the answer is no, the decision has already been made. You just haven't accepted it yet. Take it from Dolores, the scariest part isn't tossing the sock or the manual, it's realizing how long you've lived with things that don't belong to your life anymore. Ever opened a drawer and found something you didn't even recognize? Tell us in the comments. You're not alone. And sometimes, that one forgotten item is the beginning of your freedom. Rule 2. Nostalgia has a weight limit. Dolores loved her keepsakes. Not in a sentimental sit and cry over them kind of way, but in a quiet, proud way. Every shelf told a story. There was the porcelain ballerina her daughter made in 2nd grade, the seashell from a Florida trip in 1982, a cracked ceramic bird from her mother's garden, and dozens of old birthday cards, yellowed at the edges, propped up like museum pieces. 9 shelves in total. Tucked neatly in the den, just beside the window. It started as a small collection, a few things that mattered. But over the years, the shelves multiplied, and the space around them shrank. Dolores hadn't dusted the lower shelves in nearly 3 years. And not because she didn't care, she just couldn't reach them without pain. Yet she kept everything exactly as it was, frozen in time, untouched. Then one afternoon, her grandson, Caleb, came over for a visit. Curious and quick on his feet, he darted into the den, pretending it was a pirate ship. In the corner sat a small, old wooden high chair Dolores had kept from when her daughter was a toddler. It was barely visible, half covered by a quilt and a stack of framed photos. As Caleb rushed past, his foot caught on one of the chair's legs, and down he went. Not badly hurt, but shaken enough that he didn't want to come back to Grandma's crowded house. Dolores was crushed, not by the fall, but by the realization that her beloved memories had become a hazard. Her legacy was physically standing in the way of new memories being made. Here's what so many seniors don't realize: nostalgia, while beautiful, can quietly overstay its welcome. And when it does, it starts costing you something. Not just space, but safety. Not just dust, but disconnection. Fresh insight. A recent study from UnitsSteal found that cluttered visual environments actually raise cortisol levels in older adults. That means your beloved shelf of memories might not just be collecting dust, it could be silently stressing you out. It affects focus, mood, even sleep. Ask yourself, when was the last time you truly looked at each item on your shelf? Not glanced, looked? Does every piece still stir something inside you? Or have some become visual noise, things you pass by but no longer see? Dolores made a painful but powerful decision. She kept only what made her feel alive, not just what reminded her she had lived. She cleared 5 shelves and donated several items to a local memory cafe for seniors. One of those items, a hand-painted frame, now hangs in a center where people with dementia gather weekly. It still tells a story, just in a different chapter. Clutter doesn't just block space. It can block connection. And sometimes, the cost of holding on is greater than you think. But the next rule? That one took something even more personal from Dolores, something that no donation box could ever undo. Rule 3. Saving for just in case is a trap. In Dolores's kitchen, tucked in the top drawer near the sink, was what she jokingly called her emergency stash. It was a drawer she rarely opened, but never dared to empty. Inside were 20 sticky sauce packets from takeout nights long past, 3 manual can openers, only one of which still worked, expired matches, a rusted vegetable peeler, a tape measure, and batteries she never tested. She wasn't trying to be disorganized. In her mind, these were things you just might need. What if the power went out? What if her electric can opener stopped working during a storm? What if someone needed soy sauce but couldn't make it to the store? Just in case, she'd say, shrugging it off. But here's the quiet danger that builds in homes after 60, just in case rarely arrives. And when it does, it usually demands something much more important: your clarity, your speed, your calm, not an old packet of ketchup or a broken gadget from 1998. Dolores realized the trap one evening when she needed her flashlight during a power outage. She opened the drawer and fumbled through the clutter, twisting her wrist, knocking over items, and nearly cutting herself on a dull, loose peeler. The flashlight wasn't even in there. She had stored it somewhere safe, and forgotten where. The irony hit her. She'd been saving all this stuff for some invisible future emergency, yet the drawer was utterly useless in a real one. And she's not alone. Many older adults fall into this exact pattern. Saving things just in case often comes from a good place. Wisdom, resourcefulness, survival habits from earlier decades when every item had value. But over time, it becomes a quiet trap. That space, physical and mental, is no longer serving you. It's stealing from you. Here's the hard truth. Studies show that 95% of items saved just in case by adults over 60 are never used again. Not once. Not because they weren't useful at some point, but because needs change, lifestyles shift, and what once was essential becomes background noise. Letting go doesn't mean you're unprepared. It means you're intentional. Dolores eventually emptied the drawer entirely, keeping only a flashlight with fresh batteries, one reliable can opener, and a small multi-tool she actually knew how to use. The rest? Gone. She didn't just make room, she made peace. So take a look at your own emergency drawer, or that bin in the garage, or the basket on top of the fridge. Ask yourself, honestly, when was the last time you used that thing? Would you even reach for it if something happened today? Still saving something just in case? What is it? Be honest below. You might be surprised how freeing it feels to let it go. Rule 4: Multiples equals mental load. Dolores never set out to collect winter coats. It just happened over time. One was a gift. One was on sale. One she swore she'd wear when she lost 5 pounds. Another reminded her of her husband because he said she looked sharp in it. Slowly but surely, she ended up with 7 coats tucked into the front closet, coats she rarely touched. She lives in Kansas. Winters get cold, yes, but not Siberian cold. 2, maybe 3 coats would have been plenty. But every time she opened that closet, she'd stand there, staring. The choices should have made life easier, but instead, they became another layer of quiet stress. Which one still fits? Which one has the lining that makes her sweat? Which one has that scratchy collar? She wasn't even aware how many times she closed the door without picking any coat at all. This is where the real problem begins: decision fatigue. As we age, decision-making doesn't just get harder, it gets heavier. The mental energy it takes to compare, choose, and second-guess builds up over time. And when every shelf, drawer, or closet holds more options than answers, even small tasks become quietly exhausting. It's not about being disorganized. It's about unknowingly overwhelming yourself with options you no longer need. And it's not just coats. It's mugs, towels, shoes, half-used notebooks, duplicate casserole dishes, all sitting there, silently demanding attention and adding to your mental clutter. One study on older adults showed that reducing choice in daily routines actually improves cognitive clarity and emotional stability. Fewer options free up mental space for things that truly matter, like time with loved ones, hobbies, or simply peace of mind. So here's the tip Dolores finally embraced: pick 3. One coat for everyday use, the one that's comfortable and easy to zip. One for warmth on bitter days. And one nice coat for church, holidays, or the occasional special dinner. That's it. She donated the rest to a senior shelter. And with that choice, something unexpected happened. She stopped dreading the closet. In fact, she started using it again. The fewer choices she had, the faster she got ready. And the lighter she felt walking out the door. This isn't about deprivation, it's about clarity. Multiples don't equal preparedness, they equal pressure. And over time, that pressure turns into hesitation, which then turns into inaction. Take a moment and ask yourself, how many of the same thing are you keeping just because? Would your day feel lighter if you only had what you actually use? Sometimes the best way to simplify your life is to trust that you need less to live more. Rule 5. It was a gift, guilt is a lie. In Dolores's dining room cabinet, Tucked behind a stack of faded placemats and unused serving bowls, sat a hand-painted wooden tray. Bright oranges, heavy brush strokes, and a swirl of abstract shapes that made her dizzy to look at. It wasn't her taste, not even close. But she kept it. Not because it was useful. Not because it made her smile. But because it was a gift from her late cousin Clara. Clara had given it to her one Christmas, years ago. Dolores remembered unwrapping it with a forced smile and saying, "Oh, how unique." And for some reason, that single awkward exchange tied her to the tray for the next 15 years. Every time she considered letting it go, a pang of guilt stopped her cold. Clara had passed away. Wouldn't it be disrespectful? Wouldn't it mean she didn't appreciate the thought? So it stayed. In the back of the cabinet. Gathering dust and guilt. Here's the truth that many seniors never say out loud. We hold on to gifts not out of love, but out of obligation. The vase from a neighbor. The sweater from a daughter-in-law that still has the tag. The souvenir from a trip someone else enjoyed. These things don't reflect who we are, they reflect who someone wanted us to be, or worse, who we used to pretend to be. But let this sink in. You are not dishonouring someone by letting go of an object they gave you. You are not erasing them. You are releasing yourself. The person is gone. And the guilt? That doesn't belong to you anymore. The gift served its purpose the moment it was given, with love, with thought, with good intention. What happens after that is your choice. Dolores finally donated the tray to a local art therapy center for seniors with memory loss. She realized it could be used by someone who saw beauty in bold colors, even if she didn't. That act didn't erase Clara's memory. In fact, it honored her more than hiding the tray ever could. One simple question helped her make the decision. If this item weren't a gift, would I still keep it? The answer was no. If an object brings guilt instead of joy, it's not preserving the past, it's distorting it. Letting go is not disrespect. It's permission to live honestly. So ask yourself, what's one item you've kept just because it was a gift? Be honest. Would the person who gave it to you want you to feel burdened or free? Let us know in the comments. And remember, your home should reflect your life, not your guilt. Rule 6. Storage units steal your legacy. Every month, like clockwork, Dolores's bank account was debited $110 for a storage unit she hadn't seen in over a year. At first, it felt like a responsible decision, downsizing without letting go. A way to deal with it later. When she moved into a smaller space after retirement, she couldn't bring herself to part with everything. So she did what millions of other seniors in the US are now doing. She rented space for the life she used to live. Extra furniture. Boxes of kitchenware. Framed art she hadn't hung in a decade. Childhood keepsakes from her daughter's school years. All sealed behind a metal door in a temperature-controlled vault that slowly became a financial and emotional burden. At first, she told herself she'd go through it soon. Then soon became someday. And someday quietly stretched into years. Here's what's happening right now across America. Seniors are renting storage units at record highs. It feels like a solution, but it's often just a delay. Studies show that 87% of stored items are never reintegrated into daily life. Not because they are worthless, but because the moment they were put into storage, they began losing meaning. Storage units don't preserve your legacy. They pause it. And while your memories sit behind a roll-up door, you pay, month after month, for a version of your life that no longer fits where you are today. But there's something even more sobering. Dolores hadn't told anyone what she had in storage. Not her daughter. Not her grandkids. Not her lawyer. If something had happened to her, no one would have known. That storage unit, filled with items she once thought too precious to part with, would have been auctioned off for pennies to strangers. Everything she tried so hard to hold onto could have vanished in a single afternoon. Your legacy isn't what you store. It's what you share. If the things you value most are locked away where no one can see them, use them, or understand their meaning, they don't become family treasures, they become lost time and lost money. Dolores finally visited the unit one spring afternoon. She hadn't been there since the summer before. And as she opened the door, the stale air hit her first. Then the silence. Then the flood of "why did I keep this?" Her hands trembled as she lifted a dusty box marked precious. But what she found inside? That something we'll show you in Rule 7, and it changed everything. Rule 7. If you keep everything, you leave a mess behind. Dolores never thought of herself as someone who would leave a burden behind. She was thoughtful, intentional, the type who sent thank you notes and labeled her casserole dishes before potlucks. But clutter has a way of creeping in quietly, especially when it's tied to memory, loss, or love. One Sunday afternoon, while sorting through old photos, her son came to visit. He was helping fix a squeaky window, but his eyes kept drifting toward the boxes along the hallway floor. Tubs of papers, bags of fabric scraps, binders of recipes, most of it unmarked. After a pause, he gently asked, "Mom, if something happened tomorrow, how would I know what matters in this house?" That single question stopped Dolores cold. She had no answer. Suddenly, it hit her. She had spent years keeping things with meaning, but only to her. There were no notes, no context, no explanation. What she saw as sacred, her children would one day see as stuff. And without her voice guiding them, they'd be forced to guess, to dig, to make painful decisions during an already painful time. This is the quiet truth many seniors avoid. Without clarity, your clutter becomes your children's crisis. Not just logistically, but emotionally. Adult children often carry guilt over not knowing what to keep, what to toss, and what might have mattered. In trying to honor you, they often feel like they're erasing you. And that confusion? It lingers long after the boxes are gone. But Dolores made a choice. That same week, she cleared a single shelf in her bedroom closet and created something she called her legacy box. Not a huge chest. Not an overwhelming archive. Just one beautiful box, small, clear, and full of intention. Inside, she placed items that truly mattered. Her wedding photo, with a note on the back in her handwriting. A bracelet her mother gave her before she passed. A letter to her children, explaining why she kept certain things and let others go. Her favorite hymn, printed and folded with a dried violet inside. A tiny quilt square sewn from her daughter's childhood dress, along with a memory written in ink. Every item had a reason. A story. A purpose. Nothing inside needed to be guessed or Googled. It was all there, clear, meaningful, hers. That's what legacy should look like. Not a mountain of things others must climb, but a small, sacred space where your voice is still heard. Ask yourself, if someone walked into your home tomorrow, would they know what truly mattered? Or would they be left sorting through confusion, trying to piece together your life from unlabeled boxes? Legacy isn't about volume, it's about meaning. Start with one box. One story. One act of love that outlives you. Because if you keep everything, your voice gets buried. But if you choose what to preserve, your story stays alive. Dolores didn't empty her entire house. She didn't throw everything away or become a minimalist overnight. What she did was far more powerful. She made space for life to come back in. Today, 2 of her rooms are completely clutter-free. Not sterile. Not cold. Just open. Breezy. Peaceful. Her hallway, once lined with "I'll get to it later" boxes, now echoes softly when she walks through it. She no longer avoids opening drawers. She no longer feels overwhelmed by invisible weight. And tucked inside her bedroom closet, on a shelf she can reach without strain, sits her single memory box, filled with love, stories, and meaning. But maybe the most beautiful change? Her grandson started sleeping over again. He runs freely through the rooms that once felt tight and crowded. He colors at the kitchen table without worrying what he might knock over. He asked Dolores last week if they could start building a birdhouse together. The home feels alive again, not just because there's more space, but because there's more presence. And that's the quiet truth behind this journey. It's never just about cleaning. It's about gaining back your clarity. Regaining a sense of control over your own environment. And finding peace, not from having nothing, but from knowing everything around you has purpose. Letting go isn't a loss. It's a declaration. A way of saying, I'm still here. And I choose what stays with me. So if you're over 60 and sitting in a space that feels like it's closing in, or waiting for the perfect moment to start, let Dolores' story be your nudge. You don't need to do it all in one day. You just need to begin with one drawer, one shelf, one decision. You deserve a home that speaks of who you are, not what you couldn't let go of. If this video helped you rethink even one item in your home, tap that like button and share it with someone who's ready to breathe again. And don't forget to subscribe to Wise Aging Seniors, where we're not just clearing clutter, we're building peace, not piles.